Happy Father's Day and welcome to the Gospel according to Kinison. I am your man. I am your illustrious host, your spiritual influencer, as my daughter says. And I'm excited to be here with you this morning. And since he's getting a lot of attention again, you know, we go through streaks here. Nobody says anything about him, and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about him. We got to give him a name one of these days. I call him my guardian angel. Maybe Joe Biden could use him. Uh-oh, Sherry's shaking her head like, don't go there.
I thought somebody named him last week, but we'll keep watching. Good morning, Jerry Nicholson, Valerie Jasso.
Two of my favorite people.
Maureen, Anthony Golden, Cindy Bitto, Jim Norder, Joe Sumter.
You're naming all my friends.
Misty Soper, I'm telling you.
Misty.
Jack Friedman says, don't forget
to
subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah, go to YouTube and like the Gospel according to Kinison. I know it takes a second to do that, but please do that. I got to find out if I've done it.
Don and Cheryl Morin, good morning. We'll see you soon.
Well, we're going to see them next week, or this week. And we're going to see several of them. Valerie Jasso we're going to be with. That's going to be uncomfortable.
Happy Father's Day to Craig.
And yes, to Craig and Tammy and Samantha. Are they back from their vacation? Is it me or do they take a lot of vacations?
They know how to live.
Boy, isn't that the truth? I'm going to start following them. You know, it's going to be weird with you and Valerie both on this cruise.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, my wife and a gal that I care a lot for. It's going to be weird.
Oh,
it's going to be strange. Anyway, and it's Father's Day. Are you still looking? Does anybody else want to mention?
Derek Kustra, Eddie Jarvis.
Eddie Jarvis?
They're all telling you Happy Father's Day.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to be celebrating our Father's Day when we get off the program here. My beautiful wife is making dinner, and she's making everything. I mean, she is cooking everything in the kitchen. We've got cabbage, cauliflower, carrots, green beans, potatoes. I don't even know if I should start on the meats.
That's okay.
Yeah, but it's a lot. My wife can cook, and I love her, and been with her for about, Jerry, 53, 54 Father's Days.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, and now I want to congratulate or anyway, wish a happy Father's Day to my son-in-law, who I think is just one wonderful father. I really do. I look back at Christmas, and you'll probably remember this, Sherry. We kind of go nuts on Christmas. And we had bought all kinds of things for the kids, Finnegan and Scarlett, and we had bought all kinds of things. But there was one particular thing that was quite expensive that Scarlett had wanted. And she was going through all of her gifts, and she was happy with it and everything. Then the last one that she opened was this gift that her mother had told her, we're not going to get that. It's too much money. We're not going to get it. She opened it up, and she realized that Devin had went and got it, and Ginger didn't even know that she had got it, and she ran over and jumped in his arms and kissed him on the cheek and said, thank you, Dad. And I'll tell you what, I could have just cried right there. But that's kind of father he is, not only to Scarlett, but to little Finnegan. And I want to wish him a very, very happy Father's Day. To my son-in-law, Devin Cottrell. And also, probably the greatest man, wisest man, smartest man that I knew in my life. And I know that every one of us think we have the best father, and I'm one of those. I don't know if he's better than everybody else or not, but I sure thought so. I loved him so much that I preferred to go and live with him homeless in a car than to not be around him. And we bounced back from that, by the way. And taught me more about life. He taught me more about these lessons that I teach you than anyone else did in my entire life. And that was my dad. Reverend S.E. Kinison. Again, I don't know why they used to use initials. Everyone else knew him as Samuel Kinison. And Sherry, you probably will remember this. We were riding in the limousine at his funeral and following the hearse out to the cemetery. And I remember back in those days, they still pulled over to the side of the road. And all the cars were on the side of the road, and we were going down the highway, and we went by a school. And I think Sherry will remember this because I had told her, I said, Sherry, they're never going to know how great my father was. I thought he was such a great man that the whole world should know about him. And just maybe even just before that, God put another man in my life. And that was Sherry's father, the Reverend J.R. McFadden, or James McFadden. And he picked up right where my father stopped. And he became a father to me. Matter of fact, we referred to each other every once in a while because he's always known as the Rev. But he called me son, and I'd call him dad, and I meant that with every part of my life. I probably did more functions with Reverend McFadden than I did with my own father. And I guess outside of you, Sherry, there's no one else, you and me, to wish him, even though he has stepped over into that other realm about 8 years ago. No one else can enjoy that but you and I. So I want to wish him a happy Father's Day. Two of the greatest men I ever met in my life. And I think both of them put the drive in me that I didn't want to disappoint either one of them. And Sherry and I was talking about her dad the other day, and such a humble man, but so wise.
Ginger said, Devin's in tears.
Well, I don't need that help. You know, I really don't need you to tell me that. I'm doing the best I can to hold it together right now. And I love my daughter. She's the reason I get to enjoy Father's Day. Smartest, most beautiful, talented. Sad thing is, I don't think she's ever really realized how talented and smart that she is. And believe me, she is.
She is.
And there's not a lazy bone in her body. And brought in two wonderful children into this world that revived my youth. And I've said that many times. I've often said that Scarlett saved my life. She gave me a new drive to live. And then Finnegan, what can I say? Watching him is like watching me grow up because he looks just like I did as a child. If I put pictures together, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Anyway, I love all of them, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Cindy Biddle says, that represents the armor of God, your knight.
Now, who said that?
Cindy Biddle.
Well, Cindy, I guess God's Mexican then, because this was a Mexican warrior. And anyway, I'm glad he's behind me.
Diana Lee says Happy Father's Day. Everybody's telling you Happy Father's Day.
Well, I appreciate that. And Sharon, you know what? You and I, we've been fathers and mothers to many, many, many people. And the churches that I pastored, most of them were the majority was black. And as you know, in the black community, a lot of times they grow up without a father figure. And I became their father figure. And I loved them. I cried when they cried. I laughed when they laughed. Then I was also a coach, a hockey coach. And I loved kids so much that I I not only taught coach varsity, and we won 13 championships at Upland High, but I also did rec. And they would come to me and go, we have a problem child. Would you put him on your team? And I welcomed it every single time. Never had a problem with any of them, but I found the majority of them had no father figure. So I've loved my life, but I want to get to my lesson. Had nothing to do with father, by the way, but it's a good lesson. I told you a few weeks ago that we were going to minister on a few messages on lies. The lie we're going to deal with this morning is there's nothing I can do. How many of you have ever said that, or you've been around someone? There's nothing I can do. You know, this is this and that and that. It's all going to hell. There's nothing I can do. It's a lie. You see, Don Miguel Ruiz, he said that the only reason you suffer is because you choose to suffer. Man, I know that's right in your face, but the only reason you suffer is because you choose to suffer. Before I realized that I had control over my life, whenever I was faced with a problem area of my life, I just tell myself, there's nothing I can do. It is what it is. Nothing I can do. But by saying that, I didn't have to think any further about the problem. That's why I would say it. I didn't have to wait for external pressures to force me into some kind of action. No, my best way out is there's nothing I can do. I didn't want to face the truth that I could create my own internal pressure. I didn't want to face that. That most of the pressures that I was facing was because I had created them inside of me. I love this quote by Henry David Thoreau, and it says, things do not change. We change. I hope you write that down. Things do not change. We change. If that's really true, why do we waste our precious time wishing things to change? And you know what I'm talking about. We'll even just think about it, and we just wish. Well, I'm probably going to bust some of your balloons. Wishing is a way to remove yourself from what is going on now. So you just wish. You just wish you had a better job. You wish you'd hit the lottery. You wish you'd have more money. You wish you felt good. But it was really only your way to remove yourself from what's going on. Wishing is how most of us avoid growing up. Think about children. Now they're always wishing. Well, it keeps them from growing up. Lying to the soul, and that's what we do, is an unconscious attempt to avoid changing. It's subconscious. It's subconscious. So you lie to your soul. Some of the things we say is, people never change. I'll never change. That's how it is. There's nothing I can do. But there's always something you can do. And if what you do fails, so what? So what? G.K. Chesterton, I know I'm giving you a lot of quotes today, but said nothing succeeds. You're going to fall out on this one. Nothing succeeds like failure. Whoa, it took me a while to think about this, because I like saying nothing succeeds like success. He said nothing succeeds like failure. Most of us have an irrational, superstitious fear of failure. When we say that it might not work, what we really mean is that it might not change things. Nothing succeeds like failure. Let me tell you about a man who created the company known as IBM. His name is Thomas Watson Sr. He said, if you want to double your success rate, this really, I'm sure it's shaking some of you up because it shook me up. If you want to double your success rate, double your failure rate. Wow. It's a fear of failure that prevents success. Now it's starting to make sense to me. It's a fear of failure. I'm afraid I'm going to fail, so I'm not even going to try. And it prevents success. If you ever want to get a good book to read, get books by a basketball coach named John Wooden, the basketball coach for UCLA. He said, before he'd always say to his team before a game when they was in the locker room, he'd tell them, the team that makes the most mistakes today, we will win. The team that makes the most mistakes today will win because they're going to keep trying until they get it. Dr. Deepak Chopra, he said to worry is to pray for what you don't want. I'll tell you, I'm on a roll today, folks. I'm on a roll today. Another lie. This may not be for you young folks, but I hope you listen because it's going to be later on, is I'm too old for that. I love George Carlin, the comedian. And Sam was an inspiration. They just did a documentary actually on HBO on George. And he said that in the 80s he was ready to get out of the funny business. And Sam Kinison came on the scene and reignited him. Gave him back his passion. When Sam died, George sent such a big arrangement of flowers, they could not get it in the funeral home. So it had to stand outside as you entered the funeral home to go to the viewing. That's how big it was. Later on, he called me and I thought, I don't know if George is losing it, what's going on, because he called me and said, Bill, I had to call you. I got to tell you something. I think Sam is feeding me from the other side. And I go, feeding you? What do you mean, George? He said, I believe he's giving me information for comedy from the other side. Now, the reason I brought him up is in his last HBO special. He did a routine on getting old and how it was great. How it was great to get old. Because then whenever you move, you don't have to move yourself because you're too old. If you want to pick up a heavy box, all you got to do is go, would you help me? I'm too old. And so one of the easiest ways for me to avoid doing something is to say, I'm too old for it. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a claim that keeps me out of action, although it is almost never really true that I'm too old to do it. It wasn't that long ago that I was telling myself I was too young to do things. I'm too young. I don't know how to do that. It wasn't that long ago, folks, that I really didn't know how to yet. Now I'm saying I'm too old. I had a brother who used to feel a lot. He felt a lot of frustration about his trying to be a preacher that came close to making but never quite did. And then finally he began to think, what would I really love to be doing. Finally, he searched for action in the direction of his dream. Searching for action is what all our lies prevent. Your lies don't want you to do that. It pulls back the cover. My brother's name was Sam Kinison. Sam's assessment of professional comedy, by the way, is that it's the world's most underrated art form, and I have to agree with him on that. Sam took his most insanely amusing creation into the professional world with remarkable, successful results. The odd thing is, although he was always funny, turning it into a lucrative show business didn't happen for Sam until he was 33 years old. I want you to think about that. Sam once told me that he had this horrible thought. What if it's too late? Then I told him, only you can decide if you're too old to do it. Only you can. When he decided that he wasn't, he wasn't. A man named Rodney Dangerfield, another very, very, very close friend. He was a comedian. His original name, or real name, was Jack Roy. They used to make fun of him. His routine later on, I get no respect, actually had nothing to do with his wife. It was all to do with how the comics treated him. That he got no respect. So he got out of comedy. Got out of comedy for 12 years. For 12 years, he was a handyman and a carpenter. 12 years later, he decided to come back to comedy when everybody would have went, "You're too old." He was 45 years old. He changed his stage name to Rodney Dangerfield. The rest of it was history. When he decided that he wasn't too old, he wasn't. People who live in self-deceit will always tell you that they have a horrible feeling that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Has that ever entered your mind? They're not living their true lives. They say that circumstances have prevented them from being who they could really be. But it wasn't circumstances? Or was it an exaggeration of the power of circumstances? Our current form of public education, I know I'm giving you a lot of information, kindergarten to high school to college, was designed in the Elizabethan age, where humans had an average life expectancy of 35. For a person living 35 years, it was a sensible learning system that kept the mind alive and fresh for life, but you don't want to live to be 35. Today we have continued to use this, I'll say, dilapidated educational structure despite having an average age lifespan of almost 75 years. Our basic personal learning system is over when we're in our 20s. Think about it. And yet we have over 50 more years to live. Without some kind of ongoing learning, the minds of humans grow soft. They grow weak. They get paranoid from the steady diet of television and the internet. It's not your age that determines what you can learn. It's your enemy. It's your energy. That's your enemy. Your energy doesn't depend on your age. It depends on your sense of purpose. It comes from a well-generated sense of necessity. What needs to be done? And it comes from the action as a result of that question. Let me tell you something surprising. George Bernard Shaw, sure you know the name, thought that humans one day would learn to live 300 years. He also thought the key ingredient would be a more masterful use of the human mind. It wouldn't necessarily be medications, nutrition, but a more masterful use of the human mind, which will create a habit of continuously overriding and replacing the automatic perceptions of age. What do you want to do in life? Back when I was doing success seminars, I'd have everyone close your eyes. Matter of fact, if you're not driving, close your eyes. Look back. Look back when you're 18, 20, 25 years old, or maybe you're that now. What did you want to do then? What did you want to do in your life then? And we go through that memory lane for a little bit. Then I would ask them, what did you always want to do? They'd start telling me different professions than what they were doing. And I'd ask them, why don't you do that? Because I'm 45 years old. Because I'm 35 years old. Because I'm this age. And I would go back and remind them again, why don't you do that? It'll bring life to you. As we grow older, we cut down on our motion and our movement. We're not growing older. We're simply growing weaker. We're suffering from a lack of motion. To say that I'm too old to play softball, that's a lie. I just can't find a league here to play in, but that's a lie. To say I'm out of shape, that's probably the truth. To say that I'm too old to take the stairs, that's a lie. I'm not too old for that lie. Is a way of deliberately avoiding this truth. Use it or lose it. Very simple. We're living in a time that it's easy to get caught up in the circumstances. When you're looking at gas, and I almost hate going to California because by the time I get there, gas may be $8 a gallon. When I moved here to San Antonio 2 years in August, gas was $1.59. Now the cheapest I can find is $4.69. I refuse to be bound by circumstances. Circumstances will not master me. I'm not happy with the way the government is being run, but I will not let circumstances curtail my life. I paid almost $1 more for a half gallon of milk than when I came here 2 years ago. I can go on down the list, folks. I refuse to start stocking up on food. You say, why? God is my supply. I'm not going to listen to these lies I'm telling you about. I'm not going to listen to what comes out of President Biden's mouth. I'm not going to listen to it because it's never encouraging. I'm not going to listen to all the bickering and the arguing and the destruction of our country. I don't live by these rules. I live by the law of God in me. I live by the God in me. You can do that too. You can do it physically, for your body and health. I don't care what the economic situation is. God controls your prosperity. He did it for those all throughout the Bible. He'll do it for you if you recognize the God in you. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time that you give us. I ask that we get the ability and the strength to change our lives, to give us strength and to give us that sense of leadership that comes from within, to lead us to success, lead us to health, to joy, to happiness, and to prosperity. And I'll give you all the praise. Amen. Sherry, happy Father's Day, baby.
Happy Father's
And all you on there, thank you for your Father's Day wishes. God love you. Sherry loves you. I love you. God bless America.